I've just gone and adjusted my UVs, just scaled them around just to avoid any kind of stretching. Now because this is a non-conformal shape, everything is not nice and straight, you'll find some kind of seams around, but one way to hide them is just to kind of move around and try to capture similar texture space. In some cases it's unavoidable because of this kind of texture. It's okay. Of course, if you were doing this and painting this texture in something like a Substance Painter or even in ZBrush, you wouldn't have that problem because you would go around the whole thing and you wouldn't end up with seams at the end. But if you were doing this quick method where you're just applying a texture, then it's worth you just quickly modifying and changing that. The whole purpose of this tutorial is to show you a variety of different tricks and techniques to kind of help you that. And the purpose of this, getting this right, was to make sure that your UVs in this case were correct. So going back now, so if I just show isolated, you select that, and I'm going to try to unwrap this rope here. Now the rope, it is a fairly hard structure to unwrap usually. There is a trick technique which kind of works, especially if you're going to do a tileable texture, and even if you're not, it's a good way to unwrap any leads, any kind of rope that you want, that's even in this kind of a manner where it's tied up. But because this geometry is continuous, it kind of goes around the model. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the whole face, so double click on this, and we're going to go to UV and we're going to hit unitize. So what that does is it's actually unwrapped everything, every one of these faces in here, so they're sitting on top of each other, but every face is unwrapped there. Now I'm going to select everything in edges, so if I just select edge, select everything, you can see from here everything's been selected in edge mode. What I can do is I'll select this edge at the back, hit minus, and that double click minus once minus is activated, and that should deselect this edge that's running right at the back. Now what that will do is that's deselected it all around the model, and what I'm now going to do is I'm going to hit move and sew edges. Once I do that, you can see that this whole tube is been unwrapped in a straight manner, in a nice straight edge. Now if I find a tileable texture for a rope, I can be able to apply that really easily. Before I do that, because it's going to be really tough to manipulate this, I'm going to make this unwrap fit into this box, and a quick way to do that is hit polygon and hit layout, and what that will do is that'll fit it right in there. So when I scale it up, now I'll have the option to do that. So I'm going to create another material here. Just give me a second, let me just delete the history on this. Once I do that, I'm going to hit Lambert, call this rope, and I'm going to load up a texture that I've already found. If you go on to Google and type in rope textures, you can find some seamless ones, or you can create this in Photoshop yourself. So I've found this texture here, I've applied that now. You see my unwraps done this way. It's vertical. We want to flip this horizontal, so I'm going to use this tool here and flip that. Right now you can't see anything because of the fact that this texture is not big enough, so I'm going to expand this so at least this fits into one of them. So if I look at that now, you can see that that has unwrapped that for me in that manner. If I scale this up and maybe take into account two of these, and I'm just gonna do this so just going to scale it up a little bit so it kind of looks like rope. So even if we go close up to it, you scale it up a little bit so you can kind of take up two of that, and just stretch it out a bit more until you're happy with the results. Maybe bring it down a bit. So if I look at that now, that kind of gives me my rope texture, so I can zoom in quite close to it and it's nicely unwrapped all around that object. I'm just going to go into my polygons. I'm just going to hit geometry, okay, mesh display. I'm just going to soften the normals on this object itself, but you can see that looks like a rope texture on the actual object. Now that's just playing around with this. You can find better textures for this as well. I found the first one that I found on Google, so if I go back onto Google, this is the first texture that I found. So you can find tons of more and try to experiment with that. One of the things that you can do inside Photoshop is to download a NVIDIA a filter which allows you to kind of create normal maps for your models. And if you go on to NVIDIA and type in on Google NVIDIA normal map generator, this plugin you can download for Photoshop, and this allows you to kind of change your images into normal maps. So first of all, in order for me to do that, I'm just going to turn this to black and white so you can see that, and then I'm going to go into my filter, NVIDIA tools, and hit a normal map filter. Just give me in order for that to take place, you have to have this actually merged into one, so don't make sure that you flattened your image. So if I go into my normal map filter now, that will change that for me. Let's take one step back and do that this way so you can look at the settings. So there's a variety of settings here you can play around with. I've set this to just left everything the way it is, set it to -5, press OK, and that kind of generates a normal map for me, which I can then apply into the shader, and it'll give me a little bit of this detail here. Now in the new, if you were doing this through ZBrush, or if you're doing this in Substance Painter or Mari, it's a different way to get your normal maps, and the quality of your normal maps are much better when you actually have geometry that you're baking it out of. And we're going to look at baking later on in a different class, but this is a quick way to generate that. So every model you might not be able to bake a texture out of, but this one certainly would be a good way to kind of do that. Maybe because it's a rope and you're not going to be seeing it from close up, it might not make sense to kind of bake that. So if I just press OK on that and go back into my model here, and I'm just going to load up the texture. So here's my settings for that, and I'm going to hit bump mapping, and if I hit file, turn this to tangent space normal, and I'm going to put the I'm gonna hit this, and I'm gonna load up the texture. So this is loaded that texture up. Now straight away you're not going to be able to see the effect that's creating. You will have to create lights. In order to create lights, you just go into rendering and hit this option here. I've already created some, so I've got some already created here. So just scale them up and position them so you can see the lighting. So I've created 3 and position them in this manner, and if I hit number 7 now, you'll be able to see some of this detail if I go close up. If you had a bit more shine on your materials, you'll be able to see that a little bit better. So just to see it, I'm just going to go in here and just turn this into blend, and if I just move that around, you'll be able to see that normal map detail a little bit better. You can see it here, that's kind of showing through some of it. It's not perfect by no means, but it gives you a little bit more, and it adds a little bit more to your actual model. If I was to do the same with this rock for the stone, if I go back into Photoshop, I can do the same for this one here. So I'm gonna go, actually that's the wrong texture here. So here's the texture for that, and I'm going to flatten that. I'm gonna make it black and white. Okay, and I'm gonna add the same filter again. Might make it a bit more extreme actually. -10 maybe. Let it do its thinking. Actually, I'll probably want to go the other way, so I'll go filter, NVIDIA normal map, and go 10, because I want these rocks to stick out rather than it being the white bits. So here the rocks kind of sticking out. Like I said, by no means this is a perfect way of doing this, but it's a different way. So if I just go normal, it's better to have some normal map detail rather than having a flat texture, and that makes a massive difference. There are different tools that generate these maps. So if I click on this object now on the well, go on to the well and go into bump mapping and hit file, tangent space normals, I should be able to load that up now, and you can see that it added a slight detail in that. And that should, when we render stuff out, it'll make a bit of a difference. Again, if I change the material just to see how it looks like, put a bit of a shiny material, you can see it a little bit better on some of the detail on the rocky bits there. So that's a quick way of doing that. Unwrap the rope and putting a bit of a different texture on it. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off unwrapping one of these parts, and then I'll let you carry on unwrapping the other parts of that model.